several different perspectives. First of all, I like to start off most of my evening lectures with this. You're a minority within the community right now. You're a minority from the perspective of, as far as I know, there's not another gathering of individuals that are studying disaster preparedness anywhere in the city of Lancaster. So to have 30 people out talking about disaster preparedness is really kind of a little milestone for us, because disaster preparedness has a tendency of being put on the back burner. For me and my department, we have a whole lot of things that we're thinking about. I normally work in the city of Lancaster. I'm the Lancaster Fire Prevention Captain. Like I was mentioning to somebody before, a little bit about my duties. I have 2 badged inspectors, and I have several civilian staff that work for me. We do all hazardous materials inspections. We do all commercial occupancies over 20,000 square feet. We do all manufacturing processes over 20,000 square feet, storage over 60,000 square feet. Did I say hazardous materials already? I think I did. Felt like I said that already. And we do public assemblies over 300, with the exception of churches. We do all institutional occupancies, such as the Mike Antonovich Courthouse. We do inspections of that. The Lancaster State Prison. We do all new construction when it comes to fire sprinklers. By the way, if you want to build a new single-family residence anywhere in this country, our National Fire Code has been adopted so that your house will be sprinklered. So all the tract homes that you see going in now around the Yellow Valley have residential fire sprinklers inside of them. So it's kind of a new fire code right now. So if you have more than certain modifications, depending on where you live inside your home, your house will have to be modified with fire sprinklers. So it takes us the time to go out and inspect those. We did some inspections at the Lancaster Baptist Church. They're opening up a new wing of the church there. And so that's basically what I do. So I work a 40-hour work week. Bless you. Tomorrow I'll be working in Malibu as a fire captain, because we're staffing up for wildland fire season. It gets hot, dry, and windy, and when our burn index goes up, which means that the fuels are essentially getting drier, we put additional folks out into our hills in our fire stations. So the fire station that I'm at has 4 people assigned to it 365 days a year, and they're increasing the staffing by 2 people in this particular fire station in Topanga Canyon. Well, we do that systemically throughout the department. I believe there's about another 30 firefighters that are on duty. Next month, we start getting into St. Anne wind season. So we start increasing our staffing even more, whereas when we're really up and staffed, we might have an additional 300 or 400 firefighters that's paid, and some of our inmate hand crews on duty. Now, if you think, Captain Polgar, why are you talking about wildland fires? We're out here in the desert, it's flat. That's right, because I want to make a comparison. Tomorrow, my chiefs thought it important enough to put some additional staffing out there because of the wildland fire threat. However, Mother Nature has this little curveball that she throws at us every once in a while, and that's an earthquake. We have no adequate way of predicting an earthquake, because if we could predict an earthquake, there would be 0 fatalities, because there would be nobody inside of buildings, there would be nobody inside of elevators, everybody would be in a safe area out and away from buildings, and earthquakes would not kill people. However, Mother Nature does have that curveball. She does have the ability to put these sudden natural disasters, such as an earthquake, onto us, so that we do not have the ability as the fire department or as the government to staff up our personnel. What does that mean for you? It means that wherever you're at right now, if there's an earthquake right now, or wherever you're at home, that's the environment that you're going to be in the event of an earthquake. So, I have a couple rhetorical questions for you right now. Most of you probably drove here or rode in a vehicle here, and I don't expect you to answer this, but I just want you to think about the answers to this question. How much gasoline is in the vehicle that you just drove in? Okay, yeah, I hear people mumbling, and that's fine. And the people that usually mumble those answers or shout them out are the people that have gas in their car. The person whose little yellow light is on the dashboard that expects that gas station to be open after I'm done speaking this evening, they kind of sit there like that, because they know that that, in fact, is a good question, and in fact that they may be thrown into the disaster situation more intensely than somebody else. How much water do you have at home? People ask, well, how much water do I need? Well, we often say 1 gallon of water per person per day for that 5-day period at least. Now, most of you, after sitting here listening to some of the lectures that I've seen here at this facility, hopefully you're above that. But most of the people don't have that. And most of the people are your neighbors. So where are those neighbors going to be wanting to come? They're going to want to come to your house. I know they're going to want to come to my house because I'm not going to tell you how much water I have or where I live. But I do have what I believe is about a 3 to 4 week supply of water in 55-gallon drums. Now, people often ask, okay, I've got a little bit of water in my hot water heater. And I reply to them, that's great. Everybody's got a hot water heater. Usually it's 30 to 50 gallons of water. How are you going to get the water out of that? To which case people go, I don't know, but it's there. I'll get it out. Well, you get a can opener? I mean, it's like, people just don't know. A lot of people haven't really thought about the process in getting something out of the hot water heater. How to get the water out of the hot water heater. Let me explain that for you because I may have put that out there and articulated that, but I need to give you the answer. Okay, so let's put ourselves in an imaginary situation. Let's put ourselves all in our homes, whether it's a single-family residence, apartment building, a mobile home, or a camper. Okay? We're all in our single-family residence, wherever we're living. All right, bless you. There's an earthquake. What do? Anybody raise your hand?
Stay put in the room.
Stay put in the room? Okay, I kind of like that one. What else? Yes?
Get in the doorway?
Get in a doorway. No, we don't get in doorways anymore.
No.
No, because you imagine 30 people getting in that doorway, that doorway, and that doorway?
What have you read at your
Right, it's going to be who can push the hardest to get everybody else out of the way. All right, yes?
Get in the hallway.
Get in a hallway. Okay, I'm looking for 3 answers.
Away
I'm sorry?
from windows.
Away from windows? No?
Windows under a.
Okay, good thing I covered this. Boy. Okay, it's called duck or drop, cover and hold. You see, we teach our children when our clothing catches on fire to stop, drop, and roll. If I would have asked you that, would you have thought about stop, drop, and roll?
Yes.
Okay, so we, as the government, need to do a little bit better job with duck, cover, and hold. Here's the idea behind duck, cover, and hold. Duck underneath something. You see, this building here in Southern California is designed to withstand earthquakes. Very few people are injured or killed by buildings collapsing on them. The only major exception in the 1994 Northridge earthquake was the Northridge Meadows apartment building. That building collapsed and 16 people died there. Other than that, there were some sporadic people that were killed, but very few people were injured by structures collapsing. Now, if you go south of the border into Mexico or a third world country where their building standards aren't as strict, all bets are off. Okay? Feet don't fail me now, I gotta get out of here. But here in the United States, what we teach is drop, cover, and hold. Drop underneath something sturdy. It may be that chair right there. That's fine. It may be a table at home. It may be under or next to your bed. Those are the types of things that you need to think about in a disaster, in an earthquake situation, is dropping underneath something. Because chances are the building's not going to fall down on you, but you might be injured or killed by what we put inside the building. For example, fluorescent light fixtures. The basketball hoop. Can you imagine if the basketball hoop decided to swing down right now? Okay, I'm not that tall, but if it were to swing down and hit me in the back of the head, I would be hurting. So I'm staying close to the table over here, so that in the event of an earthquake, that's where I'm going. Okay, so duck underneath something. Cover your head. Your head is an enclosed environment. If in fact you get a closed head injury, those are very serious. So cover your head, and you want to hold on to that object. If you're down next to your chair here, you want to make sure that chair doesn't move away. If you're underneath the table, you want to make sure that table doesn't move away. Some earthquakes last several minutes. The one in Japan last year, 3 or 4 minutes.
5.
5 minutes? Okay, so yeah, do we have 6 minutes? Anybody else? 6 minutes? 7 minutes? Okay. The 1964 Good Friday earthquake, which happened on March 27th, 1964, one day after I was born, that earthquake shook for 5 minutes. So can you imagine 5 minutes of shaking? If you were to look at your watch and say, okay, 5 minutes, and you think the world's coming to an end. So here's what you need to do. You need to be calm and just realize the fact that the earthquake is going to stop. I can't imagine an earthquake lasting for 5 minutes. That just would be over the top. And I don't know if I can maintain my composure for that long, but I'm certainly going to do my best that I can. All right, so in the event of an earthquake, we duck, cover, and hold. If you're in a movie theater, over here at, let's say, Theaters 22, where are you going to go? Under the seat? You know what's underneath there? That's why there's not very many lights, because there's popcorn and soda. Okay, so yes, that would be the right place to go, under your seat. Where are the majority of people going to go?
Down the stairs.
Down the stairs and the exit. So there you are in a little hallway trying to compete with people that are just
Crazy.
Well, they're trying to get out.
Frantic.
They're frantic.
Yeah.
And there you are competing with them. Versus, okay, family, sit down over here, get below the level of the sea. Meanwhile, ceiling tiles are falling out. And just getting from one place to another, walking in a straight line is very difficult. So your best option is to duck, cover, and hold. Now, with that information, you can go home and identify those areas in your home where you can certainly go and stay. You may want to stay away from the china cabinet. You may want to stay away from those things that are going to tip over. You may want to go, let's say, under your bed or next to your bed if you've got mirrors on your ceiling. Okay, anybody hear that? Okay, all right, so we won't go there. All right, so these are the types of things that you need to think about. You need to put yourself in the position of where you're at. You need to think about your home, your work, your place of worship, where you're at, and what you're going to do in the event of an earthquake. Because these things always strike unexpectedly. You know, one of my favorite videos that I used to bring, and we're a little disappointed that I didn't bring it this evening, she actually shows people attempting to walk in a department store while there's an earthquake. It happened to be the Loma Prieta earthquake. And these people aren't able to walk in a straight line. If you didn't know there was an earthquake, you would have thought that they were inebriated because they cannot walk in a straight line. All right? So this information that I'm relaying to you would be something to take back. By the way, I've got some books. I forgot to pass them out. They're little brown books.
I'll go get them.
I believe I've got one for everybody here. There's 2 cases of them, and there's 45 in each case. And they're kind of like a multi-hazard book. I believe they're about $8 or $10 a piece for the county to print, so we're going to give them to you free this evening. All right, so let's go back into a little bit about earthquake preparedness. We talked about water. Where can you get water inside your single-family residence other than the hot water heater, because I've already given you that answer? Yes. Okay, the toilet tank.
That's the
Not the bowl, unless you put the little blue stuff in there. All right. Yeah, the water that's in the toilet bowl, you may want to give that to pets, okay? You know, poor Fifi and Fido, I think they won't know the difference. But have you ever lifted up the back of your tank of your toilet and looked inside there? Yeah, you know, I've gotten in the habit, and my wife loves it, you pour a little bit of bleach in there and let it sit for a while, and then that has a tendency of making sure that that toilet tank water is nice and clean. But the whole point is that there's only a few gallons of water in there. So if you are that ill-prepared, most people are going to be wanting to drink that water, but I have 55-gallon drums of water out in front of my house, or out back of my house, so I don't need to start picking water really out of the toilet tank. But most people are unprepared, so these are things that we can share with those people that haven't taken preparedness very seriously. Where else can we find water in our homes? I'm sorry? Swimming pools. Okay, so let's talk about swimming pools and jacuzzis. What do we put inside that water in order to make it good?
Bleach.
We put chlorine and we put things to balance out that water. Okay? So that water is not good for us to drink. It's not good for your liver and your kidney. However, there's things that we can do with that water. If you have a water filter, there's water filters that you can actually put inside your pump or inside your pool and pump that water out and filter out those heavy chlorines and those other chemicals that we use to balance out our pools or jacuzzis. But we can also use that water for boiling. We can boil it. But you can also use it for sanitary things. Okay? You can make the toilet work. So let's talk about that for a second. If the incoming water line to your home or your business or your residence is not working, chances are that outgoing sewer pipe is not working. Okay? So there you are, you do your business and you pour the water down and you go, well, everything's gone. Well, now it's popping up in your neighbor's yard. Okay? So your neighbor's like, you know, all of a sudden your business pops up there. So you think, well, wait a minute, that's his trouble, you know. So I got rid of what I need to do. So I want you to think about your sanitary things. The reason being is that disease is pretty predominant after disaster. Why is it predominant? Well, people aren't taking care of themselves properly. They're not using proper hygiene. There was cases of dysentery after the 1994 earthquake because people are drinking contaminated water. As a matter of fact, I saw a video, and it was filmed, I believe, on Balboa Boulevard. And there was some natural gas burning in the street. There was a broken water line, and there was a lady that went out and took some water from the street in a pan, and she took it off camera. Now, I don't know what she was doing with that water, but it takes 1 gallon of raw sewage to infect 20,000 gallons of drinking water. So my thought was this, that if she's taking water from the street and taking it off site and taking it off camera, what is she doing with it? Is she sterilizing it or purifying it? Is she cleaning it before she uses it? I don't know. But there was cases of dysentery that proved the fact that people did in fact get sick from contaminated water. So without knowing what she did with that water, my best guess is that she didn't boil it because the natural gas was burning in the street. There was no electricity. So if that person did not make that preparation, she probably saw this water going down the street, grabbed a pot because she didn't want to waste the water because she realized eventually that water is either going to run out or the city's going to shut it off, and then she's not going to have anything. So my question to you is, how much water do you have set aside for yourself, your family, and your pets? Most people forget about the needs of their pets. Anybody here have horses? I heard a horse drinks about 20 gallons of water a day on a hot day. Well, you better think about that in your family disaster planning, right? Okay, so that's an awful lot of water. All right, so we talked about water. Let me show you a little bit up here. By the way, this is my information. And I have a website that we've actually been monitoring. I don't know if I'm still on camera here or not. There's a website I'd like you to at least write down. It's antelopevalleycert.com. And I teach a class called CERT. How many of you have taken the CERT class?
How many were you?
Okay, so probably about 40% of the people that are here have taken the CERT class. We just opened up a CERT class that's going to start on October 15th at the Desert Vineyard Fellowship. And it's going to run a Monday and Tuesday night for 5 consecutive weeks. And we're also doing a class up in the Lakes and Valleys community. That class is not full. The one at the Vineyard is now full. We filled up in about 3 or 4 days after we posted it. So you can see the demand for the class. We teach disaster preparedness in that class. It's a 20-hour FEMA-based class. But the reason why I wanted to show you this antelopevalleycert.com website is that if you've taken the CERT class, you can actually find out about local community meetings. Now, I know that the LDS has got a lot of things that they're doing in terms of disaster preparedness. I know that you folks get together on, on a regular basis. Right now, you're getting together. But we get together in the same context, and we study those things that we've learned. So those folks that have taken the CERT class, if you want to show up to our monthly meetings that we have in Lancaster, Palmdale, combined Quartz Hill with Lancaster, we actually meet out in Lake Los Angeles, and the Lakes and Valleys meets about 3 or 4 times a year. Or if you want to show up to some of our exercises, they're all listed at antelopevalleycert.com. As a matter of fact, on September 29th, which is a Saturday, we're meeting at the old Walmart parking lot here at Lancaster Boulevard and 25th Street West. We're meeting at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're actually doing a CERT exercise. So we're going to be passing out these OK signs, and we're working with the city, we're working with the fire department and the sheriff's department to pass out these OK signs. But it's also a test for radios for us. So if you're interested, we have it posted on the antelopevalleycert.com website. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, if you've all gotten this, I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to talk about disaster preparedness using what's called the rule of 3s. The rule of 3 says you should have 3 kits. Okay? So that's the first thing, 3 kits. Now, I realize I'm talking to the cream of the crop here in terms of disaster preparedness. I don't think there's another group of people, other than those preppers that you see on National Geographic, okay, that do any more prepping than LDS folks. But 3 kits. Now, where do you think you should have those kits?
Car.
In your car, okay?
Office.
Office or work.
Your home.
Office and home. Okay. Captain Polgar, that sounds like an awful lot of stuff to have. Yes, it is. Do you know that the federal government would like you to be prepared to be on your own for 12 to 14 days?
Yep, 2 weeks.
Okay? 2 weeks worth of stuff. But they realize the fact that most people in this country aren't prepared to be ready to be on their own for more than 3 days. So most disaster preparedness people go, we'd like you to be ready for 3 days, 72 hours. And they say that with a little trepidation because we really want you to be prepared for this. Let me tell you a story. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew went through South Florida. It looked like somebody had swept that landscape. People stood, good people like you, stood at the intersection of walk and don't walk because they got information from the radio that the Army National Guard was going to deliver supplies to that particular intersection. So Mr. and Mrs. Good Citizen stood out there and waited for the National Guard trucks to come and deliver supplies, and those supplies were hijacked by citizens, and they never made it to that intersection. So many of those people went for weeks without outside government assistance. The government said, this will never happen again. The first disaster after that hurricane was the Northridge earthquake. So FEMA came out and started writing all kinds of checks, if you remember some of the history that went behind that. And they literally were writing all kinds of checks for, oh, I had a brick on my wall that got out of place. Okay, here's a check for $5,000. They're writing all kinds of checks. They overcompensated for that because they didn't want the same thing to happen in California that happened in South Florida. Well, since then, we've had Hurricane Katrina, the biggest natural disaster that hit our country. And folks, they knew that that hurricane was coming. They had days to get out of town. And there was people that said, it's not going to be as bad as everybody thought. I was watching that from vacation, film footage from Hurricane Katrina, and there was a lady on there, and I thought this hurricane had just struck. The hurricane had passed by New Orleans less than 24 hours prior to this filming, or after this filming. And there was a lady there, and she was sitting down on the ground, and the cameraman says, what's going on with you? She goes, I don't have my medication. And for some reason, she just couldn't get up and move. She was kind of lethargic, and all I thought about was, wow, this lady had just become non-compliant with her medication. It was less than 24 hours, and she was already a victim. Now, I'm not trying to second guess what happened to her. Maybe her house was flooded, this thing came out faster than what she thought, but she didn't have her medication. So the difference between her being a victim and not being a victim was the fact that she was non-compliant with some medication. So is that one of your things? Getting back to the 3 kids, since most people aren't ready to be disaster prepared for 3 days, if you have 3 kids, and each one is good for 3 days, how good are you?
9 days.
Is at least 9 days of stuff right here. Okay? All right. And which brings me to one of the answers that I just gave. Each of those kits should be good for at least 3 days. Now here's the idea. If you're at work, the United States government and your employer would probably like you to stay at work. The reason being is that most businesses cannot survive more than a few days of being shut down. So if there's an earthquake here in Southern California and everybody left work, this area would be severely impacted by economic depression. Some businesses do thousands, some businesses do tens of thousands, some businesses do hundreds of thousands of dollars of business each and every day, even in this economy. So the whole idea is that we need to try to get our businesses back up and operating. That does a couple of things. Keeps the economy going, keeps your jobs going, but it also does this. It also allows those people that are responsible to check the roadways to make sure that you can get home safely. It makes sure that the roadways are safe so you can go and pick up your children. I can't imagine those people that are dedicated in our schools, are dedicated individuals that work at schools, that are going to be inundated with parents attempting to go get their kids after a major earthquake. I'd be willing to bet that parents are going to crawl over gates, they're going to want to go get their kids depending on the severity of the disaster. So the best thing is those schools are prepared to keep your kids for a short period of time, let them take care of your kids, let the dust settle a little bit, take care of your business, don't get on a roadway without it being checked out. In terms of roadway safety, I have a story. In the 1994, 93 Northridge earthquake, when was that? 94, thank you. I got a little confused. At the intersection of McBean Parkway south of Valencia Boulevard, one of our engine companies, Engine 273, was driving around doing their windshield district survey. All the lights were out, and the captain is shining a spotlight, and he looks on the ground there and he says, what is all of this stuff? And they're following it back up, and coming out of the ground about waist high is crude oil. It's being pumped from Bakersfield down to the Los Angeles port for processing. The pipeline broke and oil is coming out of the ground at about waist high. When the engine company stopped there, they were looking around with their flashlights and there was already tire tracks through that crude oil. So there's Mr. and Mrs. Joe Good Citizen driving around and they're driving through crude oil that's coming up out of the ground. The speculation from the captain that I personally spoke with, because he was my supervisor a couple years later, was the fact that those cars that were driving must have had a cold catalytic converter, because had somebody been driving with a hot car, they probably could have ignited that oil or ignited their car and probably killed themselves. All right? So those are the scary things that we have the potential of experiencing after an earthquake. So if you're at work, stay at work. All right, so each of these kits is good for 3 days, and we should have, how many items inside the kit would you think?
Scott, would you like me to go get mine out of the car?
You've probably seen it. Oh, who said that?
Me.
Oh, they've probably seen a lot of these kits.
All right.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about 3 items inside these kits. What do you think is the first item that you should have in a disaster preparedness kit?
Water.
Water. Okay, so we talked a little bit about water. You know, a lot of people have water in bottles, and those are fine, but they have a 2-year shelf life, right? Plastic bottles have a 2-year shelf life. So wherever your water is being stored, may I suggest highly that you rotate that frequently. Take a look at the expiration dates, be good stewards of this. You know, the larger container of water that you have, the less expensive that it is. Obviously, you can go and buy a little bottle of water at the store for $4. Okay, so name brand water from France or something is $4. But you can buy a 55-gallon drum, fill it up with a proper garden hose for just a few cents. So you need to think about water. Folks, we live in a desert. Water is plentiful right now. You can go to the store and buy all kinds of water. You're not going to be able to get it in a disaster. It's probably more valuable than gold.
Pat, I have a question.
Sure, water.
We've always carried water in our car. But what do you do out here in the winter when it gets so cold? And we've actually had water freeze in our car, and then we don't know it until it gets warm enough for it to thaw.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll repeat the question so we get it on the video properly. The question was, you have water inside the trunk of your car and it freezes. What do you do if you need to use it? It's probably fairly easy to thaw out somehow. Either put it in your body, put it in a blanket. I don't know, you could probably put it out in the sun and thaw it.
Well, I guess I wasn't worried about that. I was, how can you get water in your car that's not going to freeze? Because the bottle breaks, so that when it thaws, you have water.
Now you have a water mess.
Right.
I don't think I've ever had a water bottle break. Has anybody else had a
No, I haven't. What
plastic
about
water
the
bottle?
aqua water in the, like,
Boxes.
in the little
Yeah.
boxes like the kids drink their juice in? Those probably don't, you know.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments about that. I mean, I haven't had just a regular plastic break,
Yeah,
but I also have
not
water in pouches, which is U.S. Coast Guard approved, and little aqua blocks. They
Yeah.
come in 8.45 ounces of water.
You know why? Did you hear what she just said?
No.
She had it in one of the gallon water
I
bottles.
had a gallon
Oh,
water
yeah,
bottle.
gallon water bottle. Yeah, I don't think I would go with that, or keep it upright, maybe so it freezes, and I've never had one break.
The
though.
plastic in a gallon water bottle breaks down and will leak after a year even if it's not frozen. So it's not a very good plastic.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
probably
we-
where your
we had
problem
just-
is.
Well, we had just moved here, so it hadn't been in the car very long, but I didn't realize that the winters here were, oh.
Yeah. Surprise.
Probably gonna put it in
And I
a
just had
cooler,
totally forgotten about it.
like an ice chest.
Put it in the cooler to keep it warm.
Yeah,
How's that work? No.
because if it's freezing outside, it's not gonna be freezing.
Oh, that's a
Right.
good idea, I hadn't thought about that.
Right. Okay, so we've got some answers here. And you know what, this is good. This dialogue is good because I don't have all the answers. I'm standing up here, you think I would, but together we actually come up with all of the answers to our questions, so that's good. It's good interaction. All right, so after water, what do you think we need to put inside our kits? No. You can eat your fruit, you can eat your shoes. Okay. Okay, we need to put some type of food product. Now, for a while, I was selling disaster preparedness kits. I was working for a company that was firefighter-based, and we would go out to schools, and for free, we would give disaster preparedness lectures in the hopes of selling people the kits. And I would look at disaster preparedness kits that were set aside by the family members, and I would frequently see what type of food inside the kits. Any ideas?
Roll up, those fruit roll up bars.
Fruit roll-ups? No.
Beef jerky.
I would not see beef jerky.
Oh.
And
Tuna.
this is,
Crackers?
no. I would see crackers. This is people that don't have the education. You're overthinking this. What do you think people put inside their kids' kits?
Fruit snacks.
Candy bars. No. Actually, they put granola bars inside
granola bars.
their kids. Okay. So you think, well, what's wrong with granola bar? All right.
Make it thirsty.
So there you've got your kids sitting out on the playground waiting for you to get there. They're drinking water and granola bars. What are they making? Metamucil, essentially. Okay? So, you know, unless, it took me a little while to get that, didn't it? Okay, so I gotta be funny because it's getting late here. All right. So, essentially, when you're building a kit, you want to put the type of food that you're used to eating, because a lot of people start getting sick because they've changed their diet in a disaster situation. Okay? So, if your kids aren't used to eating granola bars and water, you may want to try to think about that. All right. So, the third item, because we're talking about threes, we've got 3 kits: car, office, or work, and home. 3 days worth of supplies in each of these kits and 3 items in each of these kits. The last one is not a single item, but it's what we call utility items. And it's kind of the catch-all phrase, because utility items are those things that we need inside of our kits to keep us going. I have 3 kids, they're all grown up now, but when my kids were little, we used to have diapers inside the kit. Okay? I don't have diapers inside my kits anymore. Now when I get a little older, I might need them, but for right now, I don't need them. But the whole idea here, a few people got that, okay. So the whole idea here is that kit is going to be changing depending on your family's needs. Give me some input on what that utility item list would include for you. Yes, in the back.
Flashlight.
A flashlight. You've got to have some type of illumination. Flashlights are wonderful. Let me talk about that just for a second. Light sticks are also really good. Are you familiar with light sticks? The advantage of a flashlight is you turn it on and off, but it requires batteries. If you drop it, it may break. Now, there's all kinds of flashlights out there. You can actually spend probably your next 2 or 3 paychecks on a flashlight. We have ones that are intrinsically safe. He's laughing at me.
He's laughing at me.
But the disadvantage of that is that if you don't buy an intrinsically safe flashlight and you turn it on in a hazardous atmosphere, such as one that's filled with natural gas, that little spark is no different than turning on that light switch right there, and you could cause an explosion, so you need to be very careful with that. All right? So light sticks are also very good. They put them typically by the kids' beds, so they, or in their kits, in the event of an earthquake, they can crack that. It provides as much illumination as about 1 candle, but it doesn't generate any heat. And you can actually use those in hazardous atmospheres. They're submersible. They do have about a 3 or 4 year shelf life. Okay? What else might we put inside of our kits?
Feminine products, hats.
Feminine products and hats.
Shoes.
Together? Feminine products and hats.
Why
Okay.
not? You can stuff it in there.
Okay. All right, good. So that's thinking. What else?
Those lightweight blankets that
Lightweight blankets, okay? Mylar blankets. Those are wonderful to have. And may I suggest, if you're going to go out and buy a Mylar blanket, if you pay more than $1.25 or $1.50, you're getting ripped off. And one of the things that I absolutely despise about disaster preparedness folks is that they have a tendency of ripping off people. And, you know, we spend money on this for this what-if situation, and that stuff's expensive enough, but tapping into somebody's salary and saying, I need to put some stuff out here is like putting money into the savings account that you may never use. And I'm absolutely appalled by people that rip off other people. So take a look at those blankets very closely. Make sure that they're the larger blankets, because I've personally spent my hard-earned money on buying these blankets, and I open them up and they're about this big. And it's not a blanket. It's more like a, you know, barely.
It's
not a
tarp.
towel. Yeah, it's almost like a washcloth. It's not a towel. And I felt like, you know, I paid top dollar for that, and I could have spent the same amount of money and gotten a full-on blanket. So that was a little buyer beware for me. I hope nobody does that to you. Okay, so Mylar blankets. What else?
First aid kit.
A first aid kit. All right. If you're not a brain surgeon, you don't need the brain surgeon kit. But what you need to do is be a good consumer of a first aid kit. I've picked up first aid kits because I shop around. I'll push the shopping cart for my wife. I'm a good shopper. And I will pick up these first aid kits, and I'm absolutely appalled by what's inside some of these. I'll read the contents. 14 Band-Aids, 3 cotton balls, and 4 Q-tips, and a book that tells you to call 911. And it's like, well, how much is this? $12. It's like, well, yeah, it's like that would be more fun to kit than it would be to pull up on the scene of an emergency or have somebody that's seriously injured and I open up this thing that's not worth anything. So don't let anybody rip you off. Costco's, and I don't mean, when I say, you know, places that sell decent first aid kits, I'm not trying to direct them to you. I don't make anything if Costco makes anything, but they've actually had a really good one. It comes in a soft case. It was $23. And I picked that up, and I looked at the contents of it, and it has some really good bandaging, some really good splinting material. It had tweezers and things like that. It was a very utilitarian type of kit. They actually had scissors to cut the bandages off, and I thought, wow, for $23, this is pretty good. Had I been in the market for one, I probably would have gotten that one. And yet it was in a soft yet durable case. So a first aid kit. What else can we put inside of our kits?
medication.
Medication, yes ma'am. You know, it's interesting. I went to Kobe, Japan as part of a Rotary Club group study exchange program. Anybody here a Rotarian? No Rotarians. I bumped into very, very few Rotarians. Anyway, I went to Kobe, Japan for a month, 1 year after their big earthquake. And, you know, I was really surprised about their lack of preparedness right in the town of Kobe. But the person that I traveled with was a nurse from Henry Mayo Hospital. And I was talking with her on the airplane flight out there. I said, what were some of your serious challenges after the earthquake? And she says, well, in the first 24 hours, it was trauma. Day 3, 4, 5, and 6, it was people that were non-compliant with their medication. People that had high blood pressure, heart problems, all kinds of stuff that were non-compliant with their medication. Those are the people that became victims and had to go to the hospital. Okay? So do not be one of those individuals. Have some extra medication on hand. You know, if you supply ends one day and you pick it up the next, see about getting some extra stuff. People have said, I can't get any extra medication, Captain Polgar. Yes, you can. Try to get it. Do what you can. Call your insurance company. Try to get some samples. Do something so you've got a little bit of a cushion there. Okay, so medication. What else?
Sanitary, toilet paper.
Toilet paper, good.
Soap.
Soap, good. We need to take care of ourselves.
Bags, plastic bags.
Plastic bags, good. Utility items. What else?
Toothpaste and toothbrush.
Yes, yes. People that are within, breath, of you are going to appreciate a toothbrush and toothpaste. Yes, what else?
Disinfectants.
Disinfectants, okay, good.
Jacket.
A jacket, good. So we need to be compatible with the weather conditions here. There's one thing I'm missing.
Glass.
Glasses. If you're Mr. and Mrs. Magoo, the kids don't know who that is. You may have to ask mom or dad. If you're going to be one of those individuals, if the nightstand falls over and your eyeglasses are crushed underneath the nightstand, you're probably not going to be worth much to your family if you can't find your way around. Okay? Not only that, but you might become a victim because now you're stepping on glass or anything else. So those are some things to think about for your kid. Anything else that's burning a hole in somebody that wanted to say what's going to go inside the kid? Yes, sweetie. Some what? Sunblock. Good. Okay, there's somebody who's thinking about skin cancer. She's already starting so young. Yes, sunblock. Yes.
What kind of shoes?
Shoes. Good. Okay, my wife used to work for a major cosmetic company, and if she was stuck at Agua Dulce and Highway 14 and had to walk home from there in high-heeled shoes, by the time she got home, she'd probably hit me over the head with those. Okay? She's a nice lady, but she's, there's only so much she can handle. So comfortable walking shoes would be good. Has anybody seen that show, Revolution? Revolution or Revelation? Revolution, yeah, on NBC. There were some interesting things that kind of came out there, and some things that I'm going to be taking to my next CERT class. Anybody remember any zingers any zinger lines that came in that show? Yes.
The guy that had $80 million in the bank with Google, and he said he'd give it all for a roll of Charmin.
Yes. Yeah, this gentleman, 15 years later, had worked for Google, and he had $80 million in the bank, and they're going to look at an airplane, he says, I'd give it all for a roll of Charmin. Yes. So exquisitely soft. Yes.
Mine was, when the power was lost, I found my power. So by being prepared, you find your power because you're not helpless.
I forgot about that one. That was not one of my slide carousel. Yes, when the power went out, I found my power. Yes. So, yes, how about another line from that movie?
My opinion is you don't take a lot of freeze-dried food and put it in there because it tastes good, because it takes a lot more water than regular food. And if you don't have the water, it'll take it from your body.
Right, absolutely. And there's a value to that when talking about the food. Anyway, it's just kind of a neat little show. I don't know what's going to become of this show, but I just thought from a disaster preparedness perspective, it was kind of interesting. I care less about the science fiction. I'm curious to know what happened on this particular show. Okay, so we talked about the kits. Folks, this is, as I mentioned before, like a savings account. You may never need to tap into it, but if you do, it's there for you.
But also, you need to have money in there, change.
Money,
Because
yes.
McDonald's was selling, during the earthquake, we lived in Simi Valley, the Northridge earthquake, and when they were selling their hamburgers, but they couldn't make change, so if you had a $5 bill and you wanted a hamburger, you paid $5.
Paid $5 for a hamburger.
Yeah.
Maybe get 5 for it. You can't make change for one, but maybe give me 5 burgers for mine.
But they wouldn't do that.
They would do that. Yes, yes, ma'am, in the back.
I'm gonna say too, that many stores, since I lived in Woodland Hills at the time, in the Northridge earthquake, they were just giving, anybody that had a baby, from the market to the drugstore, would give you diapers and formula, and just take it for free. And if you had a medication that you were due to pick up, they'd give you that for free, because there was no way to ring up anything, as far as money goes.
Good.
So a lot of the stores were really, really helpful.
Yeah, just to get this on mic, one of the ladies commented about the fact that she lived in Northridge and some of the stores gave out these supplies. It's a very noble thing to do.
Yes.
I haven't heard very many stories like that. I'd like to think that we'd all be out there trying to do the right thing. Yes?
Actually, to go with hers, our store actually, we just had calculators, because we went to our store and our regular customers just wrote us checks. They just brought their checkbooks because they were regular customers, and we just took their checks. We had calculators, and we let them in three people to one person, and they went shopping, so they were still cleaning up, and they just wrote us checks. So I mean, so if you have a regular store you go to, get to know your people, your cashiers and stuff like that, and they'll just take your check. They can process it later.
Good. Yeah, not very many people do that. Let me try to stay on track here just a little bit. Now, I was a paramedic for a number of years. This is not an EKG graph. All right? This is just something, yes, somebody else is medically inclined there. This is something that I just started bringing to the training table. Some of you may have seen it before, but this is the food consumption in the Captain Polgar house. Okay? So, we go shopping, and we're kind of good for a while, right? And we kind of go, Mom, I need food. And we go shopping, right? Okay, I don't know if your house is run the same way or not, and you may have some different bumps in here. Okay, so if the disaster were to strike right now in the Captain Polgar house, I think I'm probably right about here. Because it wasn't too long ago, we went to Costco, helped my wife do some shopping at Vons, and so we're right about there. All right. If the disaster were to strike me right here, I have what I've been referring to as, the young folks will appreciate this, the Kuna Matata line. Okay? The Kuna Matata line kind of goes like this, and it does not change. What is my Kuna Matata line? It's probably something very similar to what you have. Mine just happens to be MREs, meals ready to eat, or some people say meals refused by Ethiopians. It's dried foods, it's canned foods, it's that list of items that you work so hard on here in this room and are getting presented. All right, that you're presented. I heard some people say they have rice and all these things set aside. That probably pretty much doesn't change, does it? Maybe you rotate a little bit, but that line of food doesn't change. Matter of fact, your lines probably begin to move up here just a little bit when you buy like a 50-pound bag of rice or whatever, your beans and those types of things. So this line kind of moves up a little bit as we begin to acquire more things. So that allows us the opportunity to factor in the fact, does that make sense? Factor in the idea that we may be in any one of these cyclic positions here, but we've always got our savings account that's sitting right here on that really bad day. Because if that really bad day occurs right now, I'm doing pretty good, right? So I've got some stuff that I can use over here because the kids aren't going to want to eat the MREs right now. So this line right here to me represents a life-saving line. And I know I'm essentially preaching to the choir here about people that are disaster prepared. And my hat is off to you, and every bit of ounce of preparedness that you do is something that may pay dividends in the future. So anyway, that's just kind of a graph. Does this kind of represent, let's say, the flux of our daily lives? Mm-hmm. Does this kind of represent, does this make sense? Is this a good teaching tool to continue to use? Yeah. Okay. All right, in terms of disaster preparedness, I just want to let you know where you stand in the community. Let me run a hypothetical situation that includes the fire department response. If there's an earthquake right now, the firefighters in the 20 fire stations that service the geographical area from Agua Dulce north to Avenue A, and that service the geographical area from Lake Los Angeles to Neenac, that's out near Gorman, cover about 450,000 people. Okay, 20 fire stations, 450,000 people. If there's an earthquake right now, the firefighters in the fire station are going to duck, cover, and hold, probably scream like little girls, right? Okay. Our priority after the earthquake stops is to get the fire trucks out. Okay, so we've got some fire trucks, we've got ladder trucks, we've got some paramedic units and some other auxiliary equipment in and around the Antelope Valley. We get those vehicles out of the fire station. If the fire station falls on the fire truck, that particular fire station and fire truck is out of service and is not able to service the community. Our first priority is to take care of the fire station. We take care of it very quickly, shut off the gas, water, and electricity, so that fire station doesn't flood or burn to the ground, because it can be a hub. Several of our fire stations have automatic generators on them. So we need to take care of the facility, and then we do what we call the windshield survey. It kind of goes something like this. The fire station that services this geographical area has 3 primary pieces of response equipment and an auxiliary piece of equipment. We have an engine company, we have a quint, a ladder truck, that's the one they steer from the back. We have a paramedic unit and an emergency support team. So there's 9 firefighters on duty and a battalion chief. The battalion chief's job is to basically coordinate this entire geographical area from Avenue M north to almost Lake Los Angeles to just about Neenack, including the Lakes and Valleys community. It's up to him to coordinate all of the firefighters and make sure that they are answering their mobile data terminal or in fact call in via radio. Excuse me. The firefighters start their windshield survey. So the engine company may go north on Date, they're right on Date, north of Lancaster Boulevard, start searching some apartment buildings. The ladder truck may go across Lancaster Boulevard, may pass in front of here. I don't know their exact response route, but they're going to be looking for major incidents. If they notice that, I'm not trying to put anything on here, but if this building had collapsed, they may just write it down. 1701 West Lancaster Boulevard, collapsed structure. They're moving on. In the meantime, their mobile data terminal that we get our calls on is going off. They have an option of either handling that call or going available for the next call. Now you can imagine a person that's standing at the corner of 10th Street West and Lancaster Boulevard and they've got a little boo-boo on their head. Are we going to stop and provide aid to that individual? Everybody says no, but why? Why are we not going to provide aid to that individual?
It's because it may not be life-threatening.
It may not be life-threatening. Okay, I'll go along with that.
Even if it is life-threatening, you're not stopping.
Even if it is life-threatening, we may not stop. And that's because that is only one person at the intersection of Lancaster Boulevard and 10th Street West. Now, if we come up to the front over here, maybe one of the firefighters or the firefighters run out and look inside there and they go, hey, we got 35 people in the gym, including Captain Polgar. We're going to stay. We're going to stay and help. But you can see that we need to prioritize what's going on. The fire station that services this area has also got to take a look at the hospital. Antelope Valley Hospital may be, instead of a 4-story building, it may be a 2-story pile of rubble. I don't know. But in order to find out, we can't stop at any one particular incident. So they have to complete the windshield survey. We're supposed to do that within 30 minutes. In the meantime, everything else is going to heck in a handbasket. People have gas leaks inside their home. They have broken water pipes. People are injured. A low priority call for us is a call at a single family residence. There's a misconception about our response. People that work at schools think, oh, we're good because we're at a school, the firefighters are going to come here, they're going to take care of all of our problems. How many schools are in that same geographical area, from Agua Dulce to Avenue A, from Lake Los Angeles to Neenack? How many schools are there?
Several hundred.
There's almost 300 schools. If you think about elementary schools and high schools, the college, there might be 20 or 30,000 kids at the college, students at the college. So we don't do schools. We only have 2 hospitals, we have 2 sheriff stations and a couple of sheriff substations and 20 fire stations. Folks, yo-yo, you're on your own. You are on your own. The first fire truck that you see in your residence, at your place of business, or right here at this church, might say San Francisco on it, and it may not be until day 2 or day 3. That's reality. That's not the fact that the government's ignoring you. It's the fact that we've got many things to do between now and the time that somebody gets to you. So that's reality. The answer to what are we going to do in the event of the next earthquake is you're going to study your CERT manual, for those of you that have been CERT certified. You're going to think about your disaster preparedness. You're going to discuss these things with your family, and you're just going to kind of sit back and wait for when the disaster strikes, you're going to have a plan in your hip pocket. Those are the best survival tools, because the government's not going to be there to help you. I'd like to end with this, because I think...
You got till 8:30.
8:30?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to bring up my speech then a little bit higher. I actually did a talk last week at Palmdale City Hall. Some of you may have seen it on the Palmdale channel. And I was talking with several of the people there, and what I've seen in 29 years on the fire department is more people relying on the government to answer their questions and problems. In the fact that people go, oh, I don't know, we're just gonna let the government take care of it. And so there's less people prepared today, I would say, than there has been ever in our departments. In my history of teaching CERT for 16 years and being on the department for 29 years, people just sit back and they just wait for the government to take care of them. I don't believe that you folks are there. You folks are the ones that are out taking care of these things, and you guys are taking this bar and moving it up, and my hat's off to you. All right, so getting back to, now that I kind of ended my talk a little bit prematurely, the fire department operations. Eventually, our fire trucks need fuel. Eventually, the firefighters need food and water and those types of things. As the firefighters are beginning to take care of stuff in the community, we have a tendency as firefighters to gravitate towards fires. And I'll tell you why. Because if we don't extinguish those fires, they have a tendency of spreading uncontrolled to other structures. So we have a tendency of migrating to fires. So if you need a firefighter, light your house on fire. No. Just make sure you're all awake here. Got a couple people that are kind of tuning out a little bit. But the firefighters are going to be thinking about those major incidents first. We actually have to look at the aqueduct. We actually have a plan for our helicopters to fly over. A helicopter will take a geographical area. They'll get a hold of us on the radio if there's something that we just can't see from the ground. So you can see there's a whole lot of components to this earthquake response. The problem with our earthquake response is that the bigger the earthquake is, the more distance that our help has to come and take care of us. All right, so we rely on those areas that are unaffected. Our dispatch center, which we just had a tour of with our CERT people 2 weeks ago, they have a thing called CUBE. I forget what the acronym is. But within 30 seconds of an earthquake, they can tell where the epicenter is. So in the event, let's say, for example, we had an earthquake here on the San Andreas Fault at Highway 14, where the San Andreas Fault crosses, and winds up being the Palmdale earthquake of 2012. Our dispatch center will know that that earthquake epicenter was in Palmdale, and so they can take units from down in the Los Angeles Basin and move them up into the affected area, which would be the Antelope Valley. The problem is that our fire trucks drive on roads. And if we have the same type of incident that happened at the 5 and the 14, we've got problems. Because our fire trucks don't do the Evel Knievel thing and jump over big gaps in the road. So it may take a while. We may have to run them up Interstate 5 if Interstate 5 is open, or run them out Highway 138 and run them through San Bernardino County and bring them up this way. So it takes time to get all of this stuff mobilized. If we can't get there, if we can't get to the Antelope Valley from the Santa Clarita or San Fernando Valley, we may have to bring them in from further north. The problem is that there's not a major metropolitan city north of us. Kern County firefighters are spread pretty thin. So where are we going to get them from? Well, we probably have to get them from San Francisco and bring them down to San Francisco and bring them in from the north from Highway 14, or maybe out the 5 and into the 138. So in any case, in the worst case scenario, you're going to be on your own until outside government assistance arrives. Yes, ma'am?
That was a lot of the fire that happened. It was right behind me, right behind the hill. And it was not the big fire, even though we got the smoke. It was the little one that started. And it was amazing how the helicopters came, and that big one that sucks up so much water. They got that out in no time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I talked to some people that live in Rosamond. There's somebody here that lives in Rosamond. And, you know, here in Los Angeles County, let me back up a little bit and tell you, is everybody here from Los Angeles County residents? Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple people from Kern County. Los Angeles County is the most populated county in the United States. There's over 3,000 counties in the United States. Los Angeles County has the highest population. We also have the highest tax rate. We have a huge amount of resources in this county. My department has 9 helicopters. You go north of Avenue A, the Kern County Fire Department has 2. It's a larger county, but they only have 2 helicopters. You go to Ventura County, the Ventura County Fire Department does not have any. They share them with the sheriff. So it's a Ventura County Sheriff helicopter, and they think they've got 2 or 3 helicopters. Los Angeles County Fire Department has 9. Los Angeles City Fire Department, I think, has 5 or 6. So just in our county, with those 2 agencies, we have 11 helicopters. When we get into late into our season, from September 1st just the beginning of this month, we brought a contract heavy lift helicopter. Kind of looks like a praying mantis.
Yeah,
It sucks up water. It's got a big snorkel on the bottom of it. Okay. We bring that on contract. We also bring 2 super scoopers at the cost of several $1 million. And those run from September to December, and when the contract wears out. So we have got here in this county a very robust system. Now, why do we do that? Because we lose typically hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of real estate each and every year when wildland fires erupt. So we bring all those resources in here. So we are a major contributor to the mutual aid system. When there's a fire in Kern County, when there's a fire in San Bernardino, we have a lot of resources. We have 174 fire stations in our department. So we can send out a lot of resources. We have extra fire apparatus that we can bring in off-duty people and work. And we actually have extra vehicles. Tomorrow I'll be staffing an extra vehicle in Malibu. So we have an extremely robust emergency operations system here in Los Angeles County. It's not like that everywhere else in the United States. So what you saw out there was your tax dollars at work. And if necessary, we can get on the phone and we call for the 747, which is almost $100,000 an hour to fly. So we don't call the 747 in for the small fires. Okay, we want to be good stewards of our tax dollars as well. So, but thank you for sharing that. Any other stories?
If Kern needs help, do you help Kern?
Yeah, our mutual aid system, the county, the state is divided into 6 what we call mutual aid regions. Los Angeles is one particular region, and it ends, sounds kind of funny, but it ends right there at Avenue A.
Yeah.
We have 5 counties in Region 1. Ventura County, Los Angeles County, Orange County, Santa Barbara County, and San Luis Obispo County. So our region is extremely robust. Matter of fact, in all of the regions throughout the United States, we probably have the most fire apparatus and helicopters and those types of things. Kern County is actually another region. So if Kern County needs help, they go within their regions. They go with Tulare County, they go with, Bakersfield is a city, they go with different counties. And so they start bringing in resources from their region, and if they can't suffice, then we send resources that way. So that's the way our mutual aid system works. And our mutual aid system, because we have so many disasters here in California, it's pretty well exercised. It didn't work so well in New York City when the Twin Towers went down. The New York City Fire Department had never had a massive amount of mutual aid because they'd never had a large-scale incident, where we have large-scale incidents on a fairly regular basis. So, somebody else had a question? Yes, ma'am. You did.
I'm in Rosamond. If we have an earthquake out here and we're having big trouble there, would we be getting help from LA County or eventually someday from San Francisco? Or somewhere?
I would venture to say that most of the mutual aid resources are going to go into the populated areas. So are they going to bypass Rosamond? I don't know how the mutual aid system is going to work. But you're probably not going to get any help, because if the earthquake's that big, we've got our own problems here. Like I said, 450,000 people in a relatively large geographical area. And so our resources, eventually we may be able to help Rosamond, but we're going to, everybody that's involved, anybody that's got something shaking underneath their feet is probably going to have their hands full.
So it's more incumbent on us to be prepared.
Absolutely. Well, it's incumbent upon everybody. Kern County doesn't have that many fire stations. Fire stations are more spread out than they are in Los Angeles, but we've got more fire stations here in Los Angeles, but we've got more people. I mean, there's 10 million people that live in this county. So either way, the numbers are just about the same. Does that make sense? Okay, yes, question?
I live in Yano, and I was wondering, because where we are, it's kind of, there's not much out there. So we really are on, if something should happen, at least for those first
Absolutely,
days.
yes. You have a group up in Juniper Hills. It's called the Yo-Yo Group. Are you familiar with them? You're on your own?
I'll have to check.
Yeah. No, that's the name of the group. And as a matter of fact, they're going to be scheduling a CERT class in February 9th, 13th, and 20th of next year. And so we're offering a CERT class up there, 50 people. So AntelValleyCert.com, I talked about that before.
Okay, yeah, I'll check
Yeah.
it out.
But, Station 79, whose jurisdictional fire station you live in, I believe we've got about 300 square miles of area for people.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what the one in Pear Blossom.
Pear Blossom, yes. So, and firefighters are fairly spread out there. Okay, yes? Question again?
If I were to take a cert class here in LA County, what would I mean, how would I be,
Used?
who would I, yeah, where would I be used in case of an emergency?
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. I'll segue into that. Let me answer that, because I have a tendency of going off on a tangent, and I don't want to not answer your question. The information that you get from a CERT class is no different than what you learned here this evening. It's information you take with you, and you use it as you need. So you learn how to put out fires, you learn how to put Band-Aids on boo-boos, you learn how to do splinting and bandaging and search and rescue, and you just take care of yourself, your family, your friends, and your neighbors. You may not have a full-on team to go out there and do those types of things, to do heavy lifting, but by gosh, you've got the knowledge to at least direct people or make a photocopy of your book and give it to them. Hey, here's what I do, search and rescue. We give you all of the tools that you need, whether you're physically able to get out there and do that or not. So I've taught people as young as 11, but now we've kind of limited it to 16 up to about 88 years old.
So it's not a formal group that would be doing that kind of work in an area?
No, it's citizens taking care of citizens. It's learning these simple skills to just take care of yourself and take care of your family, friends, and neighbors. Your sphere of influence. If you're at church, you help the people out at church. If you're at home, you take care of those people that are home. If you're out and about, you take care of those people. We teach you the skills in order for you to take care of yourself, your family, friends, and neighbors.
Portable skills.
Portable skills. I like that. A little door prize for that one. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Could you talk about your search and rescue truck? It's so cool.
The search and rescue truck is so cool. We're blessed by the fact that here in Lancaster, we've got 2 significant units that are staffed 24/7 that are of national, they're almost a national resource. We have the urban search and rescue vehicle, which is located on the fire station on Avenue I and 40th Street West. Okay, so 40th Street West, south of Avenue I. And they're a Type 1 urban search and rescue team. Type 1 is better than a Type 2 or a Type 3 or a Type 4. Type 1 can go through like 18 inches of concrete, and they can do all kinds, they're the Superman, you know. The Type 2 team is only half an S for the Superman, okay, essentially. And so these guys have gotten training that take them to places like Japan after the major earthquake, to Iran, to Haiti, and they actually travel with an international team. We still keep firefighters here, but we have an international team designated, and those firefighters respond from one of the fire stations right out here in Lancaster. The other component is a hazardous materials team, which is 9 individuals, and it's a Type 1 hazardous materials team. So train wrecks, major chemical leaks, we actually have a hazardous materials team. This is the only city that we provide contractual services for out of the, I think, 55 or so cities that we provide services to. Palmdale, Santa Clarita, we provide contract services to many cities that has a hazardous materials team and a Type 1 urban search and rescue team. So, yeah, we're very fortunate to have both of those entities right out here in this city. Okay. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Okay, anything else? Folks, I'd like to just kind of wind down the conversation with this. I can't emphasize enough. Disaster preparedness has been a very big priority in my life. I've kind of taken this as a career path. My department is not a priority because of our budget constraints and the fact that we just don't have very many disasters, and we have to worry about our day in and day out operations. So disaster preparedness is kind of like, it's on the back burner there. It's not a pot of water that's cold. It's just simmering kind of on the back of the stove here right now. But let me tell you this. Because of the number of people that we've trained out here in the Antelope Valley, because of the connections that we've made, because of the continuing education that we have, because of the dedication that we have of the fire department, the Red Cross, and the fact that we bring all of these people together in the CERT, under the CERT umbrella, because, I don't want to say this because it sounds conceited, but because of somewhat of what I've done, I've reached out in ways such as this that I'm doing right here this evening, I would say that the Antelope Valley, probably over the last 5 years, has quadrupled, if not more, our disaster preparedness. And, we bring Debbie to our events, and Debbie put on a great program for CERT. Let's help crossing a little bit of a bridge here. And, I'm here helping out her. And, you know, this is a cooperation that we just don't see in very many communities throughout my department, unfortunately. So, you know, this is just something that is very near and dear to my heart. I hope that we never have to use the skills that we've shared with you, that we've taught in CERT, but I realize the fact that when that ground starts shaking, when terrorists start attacking this country, when there's a major power outage, when there's some type of major incident that goes on, that my town, because I live here in Lancaster as well, my town is better prepared today because of our involvement and because of people like you that watch programs like this that you just experienced today. I have the peace of mind of being here today, knowing that I've done my job, and I'm not even getting paid overtime to be here right now. I'm here on my own time to make sure that my community is safe. So I applaud your efforts for being here and just listening to me. Very good. Any other questions? Yes?
I've got kind of a statement.
Statement, okay.
Yeah, first of all, I want to apply what you're saying and what you're doing. LA City, LA County, although they both have a tremendous amount of resources, the average individual is probably not going to see those resources for quite a while. So then you get into yo-yo time, you're on your own. So it's like lectures like this where people become more self-empowered. I spent 30 years with LA City. And
LA City Fire?
LA City Fire.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. And we'd go places and everybody said, well, you know, they would expect us in the emergency to show up like within a couple minutes, like under a normal routine day. And if you have widespread disaster, basically you're going to be on your own,
Right.
you know, for quite a while. So the more self-sufficient you can be, the better off you're going to be.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for your involvement and your training, so thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, folks. If there's something that you want to talk about privately, I'll be in the back here just for a few minutes. And hopefully you all have the brown books that I brought. If you need any more, let me know or talk with Debbie about it. Thank you again.
Thank you. There is more books if you want to take them for people. There's another box back there that we haven't opened yet.
Hey, before you all leave, I have a couple things to tell you. Okay, we're not quite done yet, so let's sit down for a minute. You're jumping the gun. Okay, I wanted to tell you a little bit about next month's classes, because they go along with partly what we've done tonight. We have great grains next month, so we have a couple teachers come in and teach us about the other grains we don't usually get to hear about and how they can help us health-wise and help with our food storage. And we also have some of the Lancaster CERT members, and I'm assuming they're going to bring some other people with them, to come in. This second part of the class will be a 3-part class. We're going to be learning about search and rescue. We're going to be learning about cribbing, which is how to lift something off of somebody safely so that you can pull them out if something's collapsed on them. And we're going to be learning about what you really want to put in your first aid kits. So that's next month's class. And then, so that's all with that. I'm trying to think of what else I needed to tell you. I knew I should have written these things down. I sit down there and I think, and then I didn't write them down. We really want to thank Captain Holgar for coming. He's back there, and Christy for doing the rice class. So thank you, guys. As a lot of you may know, I've been out of town a lot lately. I'm leaving to go out of town again in a week, and it is because we have such great talent in our area to be able to come in and share their talents with us and share their time with us. I know Christy has been working for a week on her rice class. It takes a lot of work to put these classes in, and we really appreciate what her and Scott have done for us tonight. And thank you so much for coming. Bring more people next month. You know, we'd like to fill up the place. That would be great. And I'm going to turn the time over to Tuning for a second for closing prayer, and then you can go.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. Our Father, we're in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity we've had to gather here as not just brothers and sisters, but as a community to take in the knowledge that has been instructed here by the instructors. We're grateful for their sacrifice and their time. We're privileged for the opportunity to better our knowledge and be in safety and being able to prepare the food that has been taught to us today. We're We're grateful for the love and for the blessings they have bestowed upon each and every one of us. We ask the blessing upon each and every one of us that we may be guided safely to whatever destination we head to, that we may be guided there and find all is well with our families. We're grateful